Yes, Dimji. Honorable members, good morning. It is exactly 9 o'clock. We have the co-chair, Honorable Ndlovu, with us. I'm extending fraternal greetings to her. Honorable Badenhorst and Honorable Van Rooyen are here, and so far we have Honorable Khadeb on the virtual platform. Welcome to the meeting, all of you, and good morning to all of you. We have an agenda of 3 items today. I will start by recording the following apologies. The Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Didiza, is outside the country on IPU engagements, and the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces is at the Pan-African Parliament. I want to take this opportunity and check, Cindy, do we still have further apologies that must be recorded?
Good morning, Chairperson and members. Yes, we've received an apology from Ms. Sewisa, who is in lectures today. She submitted an apology. Mr. Feni might join, but he's also attending the Magistrates Commission. Ms. Clark might join, but she's also attending PC Health. Mr. Wessels has a speaking engagement at a conference. Medla Kude is unwell. Ms. Neil May is on SCOPA oversight. And Rem Kalipi is with the PC Cocta on oversight chair. Yes.
Okay. STP, we welcome you together with your delegation. We must also indicate that we have invited the DPCI, which is the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, otherwise known as the Hawks. The Deputy Minister of Police, Honorable Dr. Wishielo, is also in this meeting on the virtual platform, leading the delegation from the police. We have also invited the Office of the Auditor-General, which will also make a presentation here, and the Office of the STP will present on the progress report that is being made by the service provider who has been contracted to do the restoration project. We are going to take the 3 presentations because they are interrelated. We are going to take them without a break, and thereafter we'll go straight to discussions. We will start with the DPCI, followed by the STP and the AG's office. Can we take the presentations in that order? Once the DPCI finishes presenting, we will then have the STPI coming in, and then the AG. Can we please take the presentations in that order? DPCI, you are on the platform. Welcome. We are ready for your presentation. Can we check if the presenter from DPCI is not muted or is not self-muted?
General Nkosi, can you please unmute and present, or General Mbota, if you are ready to do that? Sorry, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Matale, the Deputy Minister. We also welcome you to the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. DM Bushielo is with the National Commissioner and the Acting Minister on another engagement. Thank you.
You are welcome. That will be placed on record.
Recording in progress.
Ask them to unmute us.
Oh, okay. Chair, they say they are having difficulties. They are being muted. I'm not sure how you can assist in that regard. They are trying to unmute, but they seems to be muted by the administrator.
Cindy will sort that out. I'm being advised here that they must unmute themselves.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chair. I'll. Yeah. Okay. We'll attend to that. Thank you.
Welcome, Honorable Khader. Good morning. And
morning, coaches. Honorable Doug Moore, I see Honorable Doug Moore on the platform. Honorable, the chairperson of the Council of Provinces on the platform. Honorable Des. Good morning, everyone. And the Secretary, I can see the STP also being part of the proceedings.
Good morning. Is that General Khader?
Never, not in the water stream. And that's the organizer-in-chief cycle.
Yeah, I think, Honorable Deputy Minister, let's do this. Let's allow the generals who must present to exceed the
Yes, okay.
Are they here now?
Brigadier Ramova is here. I think he can proceed. Brigadier.
Good morning, Deputy Minister Matale too.
Brigadier Ramova, can you hear us?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you.
And are you ready to take us through the presentation?
Yes, I can take you through the presentation.
Thank you so much. You are on the platform.
General, can I proceed? General, can I proceed? General, but can I proceed? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, thank you so much, the Chair. On the presentation, then we'll start with the issue of the introduction and the purpose. And thereafter, then we'll go to the mandate and the Cape Town Central Case 50 of 1/2022. That is the incident which happened at the Parliament building. Then we'll also go to the issue of the background of the incident, investigation, pointing out the confession, the court processes, and the medical process. And thereafter, then we'll go to the conclusion. Under the introduction and the purpose, the Directorate for Political Crime Investigation received an invite from the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA, in line with the provisions of Section 17K1 of the South African Police Service Act, Act 68 of 1995, which provides that Parliament shall effectively oversee the functioning of the Directorate and the committees established in terms of Chapter 6, capital letter A of the Police Act. The Joint Standing Committee on the Financial Management of Parliament requested for a briefing by the Directorate for Political Crime Investigation, that is the DPCI, and the National Prosecuting Authority, NPA, on the investigation into the 2022 fire on the parliamentary precinct and the related prosecution. The purpose of this presentation is to apprise the committee with regards to the status of the investigation. The mandate of the DPCI. In terms of Section 17D of the South African Police Service Act, the mandate of the DPCI is as follows. The functions of the Directorate are to prevent, combat, and investigate national priority offenses, which, in opinion of the national head of the Directorate, need to be addressed by the Directorate. Offenses referred to in Chapter 2 and Section 34 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, that is Act 12 of 2004, commonly known as PRECA. If during the course of an investigation by the Directorate, evidence of any other crime is detected and the national head of the Directorate considers it in the interest of justice or in the public interest, he or she may extend the investigation so as to include any offense which he or she suspects to be connected with the subject of the investigation. Section 17, capital letter A of the Police Act defines national priority offense as organized crime, crime that requires national prevention or investigation, crime that requires specialized skills as referred to in Section 16, subsection 1 of the SAPS Act. The priorities are cross-cutting. One cannot occur without affecting the other. And because of this, the DPCI specializes in project investigations, which draws in the investigative expertise of multiple investigators in different environments. The operational components for the national priority offenses. We have the serious corruption investigation, the serious organized crime investigation, and as well as the serious commercial crime investigation. Then under the Cape Town Central Case 52 of 1/2022, the background of the incident. On the 2nd January 2022, members of the South African Police Service stationed at the Parliament in Cape Town saw that there was a smoke which was coming from the old Assembly building of Parliament. With further investigation, the members realized that the old Assembly building was on fire and the fire brigade from Cape Town was immediately notified. The members on the scene of the fire then saw an unknown African male who was busy climbing through a window from inside the old assembly to the outside. Members of the police confronted the African male and saw that he was in possession of bags containing property, which seems to be coming from inside the Parliament. The African male was arrested and detained at Cape Town Central SAPS on charges of housebreaking, theft, and arson. The property found in the possession of the suspect was handed in at Cape Town Central SAP 13/8/2022. The suspect became known as Zandile Christmas Mafe, a 49-year-old male residing at Q321 Site B, Khayelitsha. The investigation the investigation, the part of the investigation which was done, the crime scene was officially handed over to the Directorate for Property Crime Investigation on the 2nd January 2022, and an investigating officer from the Crimes Against the State unit was appointed. During the interview of Mr. Mafe, he indicated that he was responsible for the setting allied parliament, as he did not want State of the Nation address SONA during 2022, or as he called it, the state of the nonsense, he called it the state of the nonsense address. Mr. Mafe also indicated that he had more demands. The following demands were made to the investigating officer. He demanded that President Ramaphosa resigns. He demanded the release of Yunus Walus. He demanded a 1,500 grant for all people in the Republic of South Africa who were unemployed. At some stage, a video clip of Parliament burning was shown to Mr. Mafe. He slapped against his chest and said proudly, "Yes, it was Christmas, or I am Bin Laden now," in Cape Town Central Police Station. Mr. Mafe also indicated that he spoke Afrikaans well because he grew up in Ventersdorp, and that he was friends with the deceased leader of Afrikaner Weerstand-Beweging, AWB, Mr. Eugene Tereblanche. Under the pointing out, the arrangements were made by the investigating officer to appoint an independent officer to do the pointing out. Lieutenant Colonel B. Ngaki, stationed at Kraaifontein SAPS, was then appointed to do the official pointing out. Before taking Mr. Mafe to do the pointing out, he was taken to Karl Bremer Hospital in Bellville in order for a district surgeon to determine that he was free of any injuries. Dr. Zelda van Toner was the doctor on duty at Karl Bremer Hospital on the 3rd of January 2022. Dr. van Toner found Mr. Mafe to be free of any injuries, but Dr. van Toner found that Mr. Mafe could be suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. The investigating officer informed the Director of Public Prosecutions about the finding of Dr. van Toner, and a decision was made to go ahead with both the pointing out and the confession. During the pointing out, Mr. Mafe pointed out a Caltex garage in Durban Road, Belleville, where he apparently bought petrol for an amount of 10 rand. Mr. Mafe pointed out a gate situated in Lely Street, Parliament, where he gained entrance to the grounds, and further he pointed out a window at the Old Assembly, where he gained entrance to the building. This was the same window where Mr. Mafe was arrested on the 2nd of January 2022. The confession. Lieutenant Colonel Spannenberg of the Provincial Anti-Corruption Unit was arranged to take down the confession of Mr. Mafe. During the confession, Mr. Mafe indicated that it was the right thing to do to set Parliament alight, because at the moment it does not help the people of South Africa as previously. Mr. Mafe ended his conversation by stating that it was his mission to destroy Parliament so that it cannot be used again by this dictator called Ramaphosa and his criminals. Mr. Mafe was officially charged and made his first court appearance in Cape Town District Court on the 4th of January 2022. The case was then postponed to the 11th of January 2022 for bail particulars. Mr. Mafe was detained at Portsmouth Prison. During the investigation, more than 30 hours of video footage was gathered showing Mr. Mafe moving around inside the Parliament. The video footage also shows where Mr. Mafe is pushing papers underneath the doors of the offices in the Old Assembly and setting these papers alight. Further video footage shows Mr. Mafe on the gallery in National Assembly lighting papers and throwing it from the gallery. Still images from the video footage was printed and a facial comparison was done with these images and photos taken of Mr. Mafe after his arrest. The result of the facial comparison was positive, and it can be said without any doubt that the person walking around in Parliament and setting Parliament alight is indeed Mr. Mafe. The court processes, the investigation was finalized in the said matter. The final structural damage report to Parliament buildings was obtained from the Department of Public Works and filed in the case docket. The Pogdatara certificate was issued by the NDPP and the indictment was served on the accused on the 9th of June 2022. A pre-trial conference was held on the 12th of August 2022 in the Western Cape High Court. The accused lodged his application where he appealed against the ruling of the Western Cape Regional Court not to grant him bail. The accused was kept in custody at Portsmouth Maximum Prison. The medical process. Mr. Mafe was admitted to the Falkenberg Psychiatric Hospital on the 1st of February 2024, and the first periodical report on a state patient was conducted on the 17th of September 2024 by Dr. J.C. Bower. The diagnosis at this stage includes severe schizophrenia with an early remission, and that Mr. Mafe is scheduled to receive his second periodical assessment on the 20 September 2025 again. The Director of Public Prosecutions advised that Mr. Mafe's progress be monitored to establish whether he will be able and willing to cooperate with the investigation when he's well enough to do so. I thank you.
Thank you so much, STP.
Thank you very much, Honorable Court Chairpersons, and good morning to all the honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee. The request made in March at the last meeting was that we need to set time for an update from the last presentation we made on progress for the rebuild. And the request was that we need to start from there, given that members have been exposed from the previous presentations on the background and other matters. So what you will see, Chairperson, is an update from March. Where are the issues from March 2025 to date? So the Development Bank of Southern Africa will then present, through you, Chair, the update on the rebuilding of the National Assembly as well as the old Assembly. It will also update on the refurbishment projects that we are currently undertaking in the 90 plane for offices of members and staff. And through you, Chairperson, I'll ask Mr. Chwene Rampele, who is the head of the implementing agent, to lead the input. Thanks, Chair.
Welcome, Mr. Rampel.
They are online unless there is another colleague online who is ready to lead the input. If not, we will proceed on our side.
It will be ideal that we get a presentation from them. We have been receiving presentations from yourselves on the work that they are doing. DPSA, we have shared the rights with them, so they should be able to present.
The project manager is just checking on them. Maybe 1 minute, Chairperson.
Honorable Chair.
Honorable Bedenos.
Just for clarity, I'm just looking at the program for this morning. We were doing the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation presentation, and then there's Q&A, and then the Auditor-General, and then the DPSA. Are we doing everything in one go?
Yeah,
let's
take all the presentations. Then when we do the Q&A, we will start with the DPCI, deal with them and release them. STP, if your contracted service provider is not here, you then have to proceed with the presentation.
My apologies, Chair. I just got an update that they are connecting now. They were hoping AG will present, and then they are busy connecting now. So they are connecting now, Chairperson. And when they are on, and then they can start.
DPSA, we can see that you are on the virtual platform. Can you please proceed with your presentation?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. We just joined. My name is Chweni Rampele from the DVSA as the Group Executive for Infrastructure Delivery Division. I'm with the team, Tsapang Senatla is our project manager for the Parliament project. I'm also with Swazi Maja, who is the manager for the head for performance services. So therefore, I'm going to start with the presentation. Tsapang, can you please present put the presentation on presentation mode so that we can share with the members?
Thank you, G. I'm not sure if do have right to share the presentation.
So,
You have the rights.
as you given the rights, okay. I would request from our presentation, we've got two tabs, and I just wanted to check how many minutes do we have, Chairperson, so I can manage my time.
You have 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. Chair, I'm going to start with just sharing with you in terms of what the DBSAs and Parliament has agreed to build, so that you have an idea and the context in terms of when we engage with the presentation. The presentation, I'll take about 12 minutes on the presentation. But in the meantime, I'm going to want to just display to the members just to see the kind of infrastructure that we are putting together as the reconstruction of Parliament of the new Assembly and the old Assembly. So on that note, Tsapang, can we then also then share with members the video? The video is just about 6 to 8 minutes, and it will just show exactly what we are building. So it's the scope, and then just seeing it visually, and then I think from that point I will then explain from the presentation itself, which you then can really juxtapose with what I would have been saying from the presentation. So the video, Chair, is still a work in progress, and members, we are developing and refining it as we go. So you may find that in some, the voiceover might be, for now, we're just using the AI kind of a voice. So you may find when it says Gauteng, it must say Gauteng. Don't worry that much with that one. I think we are busy working on the voiceover that would then be resonating with our own South African context. So as we refine it, as we engage with you, we'll then be also sharing with you the final video. But what is of essence for me is for you to see what we're building, so that at least we can talk about what you have visual. So, Mr. Snodal, can I have the video on? Can we get the video on?
A diverse and vibrant country located at the southern tip of Africa, known for its stunning natural beauty, rich cultural heritage, and complex history.
I'm not sure whether you see.
South Africa took a historic step towards democracy as millions of.
Chairperson, are members seeing the video?
No, it is not showing this side.
It is not showing. I only see status report for implementation now, which is the actual report. So
it's on the screen.
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Kim.
Is it showing from my side?
A diverse and vibrant country located at the southern.
From my side, I still see the presentation, the real presentation. I'm not sure from members if they see the thing. Would you then remove this one of the status report and give the other one?
Okay, I'll do so.
Please, our time is running. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tip of Africa, known for its stunning natural beauty, rich cultural heritage, and complex history. In 1994, South Africa took a historic step towards democracy as millions of Black South Africans voted for the first time, marking the end of apartheid's decades-long grip on the nation. The embodiment of freedom spirit, Utata Nelson Mandela took oath of office on May 10, 1994, birthing a new dawn for South Africa as its first democratic president. South Africa's governance is divided among 3 capital cities, with Pretoria, located in Gauteng, serving as the administrative capital. Pretoria is the seat of the executive branch of government and hosts foreign embassies. The union buildings in Pretoria form part of the government's official seat and house the presidency. The judicial capital is Bloemfontein, also known as the City of Roses, located in the Free State. The city is home to the Supreme Court of Appeal, the second highest court in South Africa. Western Cape hosts the legislative capital city, Cape Town. The city is home to some of South Africa's most beautiful and diverse landscapes, flora, and fauna. Steeped in struggle and turmoil, it is also where our parliament is located, set in the historic precinct within the company's gardens. The parliament has served as a representative body for over 55 million citizens and multiple political parties, driving transformative change through thousands of laws since the end of apartheid. 2 days into 2022, a fire broke out at the parliamentary precinct. For 3 days and nights, more than 300 firefighters worked tirelessly to bring the blaze under control. In the end, much of the National and Old Assembly building would be left gutted, the National Assembly chamber destroyed beyond repair. From the ashes of the 2022 fire, a new chance emerged to envision a parliament that embodies South Africa's rich diversity and upholds the constitutional principles that define us. The building responds by embodying these ideals in built form. The chamber is lifted to the second floor, exposing the ground floor plane as a form of land acknowledgement. The project acknowledges that the history of Parliament is multi-layered through the various historical eras. The old architecture and its overt narrative of authority, power, and imperial influence cannot be hidden and therefore must be addressed through architectural design interventions. By peeling away the old facade, we create space for the new building to emerge. Symbolic of transparency and accountability, the viewer can now see deep into the building. The National Assembly's design fosters moments of reflection and contemplation, inviting visitors to bridge past and future. At the formal entrance, a symbolic river, an ancient watercourse brought to the surface as a reflection pond, creates a poignant moment of introspection as visitors cross it to enter, acknowledging the past while moving towards a brighter future. Each floor within the National Assembly takes inspiration from the national symbols of South Africa. It draws on the natural and diverse beauty of the South African landscapes and connects us to this through the subtle use of color and texture. The large National Chamber, previously seating 400 members, now accommodates 1,172 people. The circular shape has enabled a 35% increase in floor space, adding 540 seats within the existing structure's constraints. The chamber's design, inspired by the Kalahari Desert's warm hues, creates a neutral space promoting equity for all. Above the chamber, on the 7th floor, lies the King Protea-themed lounge, a collaborative space for Parliament members, with a banqueting hall on the 6th floor, directly connected to the lounge and hosting up to 400 guests. Pause and social interaction areas are dotted within the building. These spaces allow for members to meet informally, fostering collaboration. A members' coffee bar is located on the 1st floor. This space connects the buildings with a generous bridge link at this level. The public will enter the building through Parliament Street. A beautifully light-filled atrium welcomes the visitor and guides them through the refurbished and restored 1910 and 1927 buildings. The public are guided through the old buildings into the new, with a history of the buildings displayed on the walls and interpreted on the floors. The tree sculpture stands for "We the People" and honors the journey of those who have suffered in the shadows. It is constructed of reclaimed timber found in the roofs of the old assembly building. Rooted in our land, reaching for our future, it becomes a beacon of hope and reflects the powerful spirit of the South African people. Tying into the theme of the National Chamber, being held up by the forest of yellow woods, this sculpture echoes the same sentiment of strength and resilience. Boardrooms throughout the old and new assemblies will have common furnishings and finishes. We have doubled the number of committee rooms in the National Assembly. Coming from the 7 committee rooms which the building housed before, we now have a total of 14 committee and boardrooms. The old chamber will be restored and themes of the First Nations people will be brought into the interior finishes and colors, with particular focus given to their connection with the land, sky, and ocean. The interiors will focus on the landscapes of South Africa and integrate with the National Assembly's focus on our national symbols. A seamless transition from old to new will be created through the common use of color, texture, and key design elements. The new link through the courtyard allows the ease of movement between buildings. Parliament is viewed as a site of transformation and inclusion of transparency, integrity, and accountability, and historically as a site of protest. Upon entering the new public realm on the ground floor of the National Assembly building, a modern interpretation of the Lukot law emerges, where the chamber is elevated atop 12 concrete columns representing South Africa's 12 official languages, including sign language. Adorned with writings, artwork, and symbolism reflecting diverse cultures, this design embodies the nation's strength in unity. Parliament aims to embody a people's parliament by fostering an environment of inclusion and belonging. The design prioritizes accessibility for all, including the visually impaired and elderly, with features like a generous ramp connecting to the main space. Moments of resonance and wonder invite visitors to reflect on the past while gazing into the future. One such moment is Mandela's Point in space, where a bridge stretches into the void, pinpointing the exact spot where Nelson Mandela was nominated as our first democratic president. As visitors walk along the bridge, they'll experience the story of that historic day, immortalizing our struggle for freedom and democracy. The new Parliament of South Africa creates a space for people to be heard and engage meaningfully with the institution's daily workings. Conceptualized with the voice of the people at its heart, it provides an interactive platform for the public to connect with Parliament and a safe haven for voices to be heard. Visitors can engage with the space through cutting-edge technology, including interactive information stations and live access to committee rooms and parliamentary discussions. This adaptable space also hosts exhibitions, performances, and guided tours, fostering connection and serving as a vibrant backdrop for life's moments. Adding to the broader tourism landscape of Cape Town and South Africa, the new Parliament of South Africa will allow the opportunity for visitors to engage with history of our past as we work towards the future. The Parliament of South Africa is a strong member of the world community, and the refurbished building stands proud as a symbol of democracy and justice.
Thank you so much. I think we're experiencing some network issues in terms of there's been some delays in terms of I could say that the voice was basically not synchronized with the pictures, but I think it was what we just wanted to indicate. I think the problem has been the network on the side of ourselves. But we'll as we refine, may probably share it again, so that you see. But I wanted the chair and the committee to just see the nature of the infrastructure that has been designed and what you're expecting. And I think key features, as we've seen, they are very clear in terms of what capacity are we now creating, from 7 boardrooms to committee rooms to 400 to 600 to 700 capacity sitting. So I think those are some of the kind of features that we'll see. But as we engage with the community, we'll keep you posted in terms of what we're building there. Just coming to the presentation, Chair, with the few minutes that are left for me. On the first slide, Mr. Smatala, can you push the slides? Top on slide number 1.
Is the slide visible?
Yeah, pitch it to the bigger to the slide mode so that we can start scrolling. You can start moving the slide. Okay. Thank you, Chair. I won't necessarily spend time in terms of outlining the the background and content, and I think we've done that before. But generally, it's just to give an overview of what we're going to really deal with. So I'm going to put much more emphasis on the kind of work packages that we've been doing, and also just maybe to also dwell much more on the actual reconstruction of both the National Assembly and the Old Assembly, and also just giving a sense of where we are with regards to the non-plain offices in terms of this. So on the next slide, we're just wanting to then just just recall in terms of just indicating the kind of delivery program in terms of the prioritized infrastructure that we had to deal with regards to Parliament. And I think it will better be explained in the next slide, where we're just giving the kind of the package and why we call it the Parliament Infrastructure Program, and on what constitute that. So in the next slide, Sapa. So this is where I think, members, it's just more to explain what I've said before, to just say when we conceptualized together with Parliament in terms of the program, it was called Infrastructure Program for Parliament, and we had number of packages. So those work packages were 5 work packages, which one was just more the early works, which we have completed, which was just more to push while we were busy with the scene, with the site being a crime scene at that time. And then where I'm going to be concentrating on is mainly your work package B, which is basically the restoration of the old and new assembly, which is what I think members will then take interest in. And then that's where we also then had that green, all of those green areas is where we really already have completed the process, and where there's embers work in progress. And then the other packages, members, was just more to deal with the future look in terms of what then becomes the Parliament Master Plan in terms of infrastructure, which is also transcends to the total facilities management. But again, I'll touch on the work package E, which is the 90 plan in terms of the offices that were created. So in the next slide, and that constituted the program of Parliament. That's what we'll report on. The next slide is just more indicating to you the timelines, which I think it is we're just our attempt to then be in a position to take you through the journey, to then say that at the time that Parliament banned on the 2nd of January, many people will then be in a position to say, no, government has delayed in terms of all of that, not necessarily appreciating that from the 2nd of January up until the January 2023, or February 2023, the site was a crime scene. There was nothing that was happening because it was still under the police watch, and as a result, that was lifted in January. That's when the investigation were done, because it was a crime scene at that point in time. So technically, the work actually started in March 2023, and that's when we also were engaged at that point in time, together with it was Public Works, Parliament, and ourselves. That's when we then started to engage in terms of the implementation and the rollout of this particular program. And basically, since then, we are outlining what we have done and what we have completed, and there's much significant work that has already been completed at that particular point in time. I think at this stage, our focus primarily is just more on the refurbishment, and also it just explains the process that we went through, because Parliament is a heritage site. The kind of heritage processes that we are to comply with which normally takes you about 9 months to comply with such kind of requirements. So it's just that slide is just showing you, members, in terms of the road the journey that we traveled and where we are. And then when you look at the next slide, I don't necessarily have to spend much more time on that. It's just more what we did was that because of what we wanted to do in terms of acceleration, what we did was more a question of ensuring that some packages, we bring them forward as we design. Because when National Treasury apportioned the funding to Parliament at that point in time, the designs and everything was not done. And the purpose was to say, Parliament, you can really be in a position to be starting to see what could really be put together in doing those other work packages. So one of the things that we thought is important to bring as a means of managing the timeline was to then do the demolition, because demolition needed no design. I mean, it's just a question of how we demolished the site. So then what happened was that we then brought demolition and took it out of the construction site and said, let's start appointing for the demolition now while the designs are busy in progress. And that's where we then appointed at that particular point in time. We that work that you see that has been completed, completely now done and dusted, because we're now in the phase of construction. At the time, that's when we appointed. We had 3 companies that came through, and then the ones that were appointed and qualifying for that was one company, Mazia, was appointed at 73 million. That was a grade 8, the CIDB grade 8 SE. SE members, in terms of the CIDB grading, even if we check it, is demolition of buildings and engineering infrastructure. So in the built environment, we appoint in accordance with that particular scale. So meaning that from the CIDB grade 8, because the work was more than 60 million, because grade 7 can only get up until 60 million. From 60 million to 180 then becomes basically the grade 8, and then grade 9s according to the scale, then they will do 200 and limited in terms of that. So just to give members that context in terms of the grading. So that's why, because the work at that time we classified it to be between 70 and 100, it was less than whatever. Then we thought we then invited companies that have got that particular grading. So that's why we then appointed the grade 8 SE at that point in time, and then that can be confirmed from the CIDB grading processes and systems. So, but that work for now is history for us. We've completed that particular work. We've demolished them now. I'll show you that the construction work is started. We are in progress. So now the next slide. So these are work packages that we've completed. So the next package was the design of the National and Old Assembly. As I said, at that time when funding was apportioned, because I'm trying to deal with the issue, Chair, in the public, that at some point we have seen some newspaper a kind of clips that says that the costs are searched. And then we were saying to ourselves, but what costs have searched from where? Because then the design and the costing of the project has not been completed. It can only be declared thereafter to then say, if we then say the cost of this is 200, and then the cost can only search from that 200 because there was no baseline at that point in time. So we then appointed, obviously, the design teams. And that's why now today we're speaking a total different phase, because now we're talking the construction side. So at that point in time, like as I said, justifying the fact that at that time when 2 billion was apportioned, which what everyone knows, it was just more we understood it to be funding to Parliament to then say this is what we're making available for now until you conclude the detailed designs. And then when we concluded the detailed design, you will see that we started to be very sure of what are the costs for each and every particular kind of an area. So, but post the final approval and the designs, the budget for both the refurbishment of the National Assembly and amounted to 3.6, which is basically just the combination. Now we are sure of what are the costs. Then therefore, that's the cost that I think members would really be very interested in monitoring and ensuring that we really perform this project within cost and no overruns, because there are issues we hear many of the times to say there are overruns, but it can be overruns while we've even not started with the implementation, such in that particular scale that we really want it to be. But part of what what we wanted to also give members assurance of is that we really are taking a risk, monitoring approach of ensuring that because of the tight timeframes of our program, it's going to be important for us to then ensure that most of the risks are mitigated. For whatever that I mentioned, we have means and ways of how we deal with that. That's why we integrated ICT in the process, so that ICT is not separate from, having the building completed, and after that you then want to then bring the ICT, because it's going to be problematic. So that's why in this particular allocation, in this particular appointment of 3.6, it is also including 3.6 of the ICT. So the ICT, if you look at it, it might be accounting to something like 900 million or so, but that's embedded into the two contracts that we have. In the next slide, next slide, Sapa. In the next slide is just to before that one you jump. In the next slide is just to confirm to you that yes, we have appointed the contractor. I can see you may see some movement on the side, and there's a board that we put in front of the building there of Parliament, just to show that Robex building construction has been appointed as a 9GB CIDB grading that we required, and they've been appointed for an amount of 2.27 billion rand. So that is basically the cost of that program. And that, as I said, it is the construction and the whole complete, as we have seen the way that I've presented it in that regard. So all in all, again, all the risks and all of the things that are associated with construction are being closely monitored and managed. As I said, we have different structures. We have the STP committee steering committee to monitor all of this. In that steering committee, we've got participation of number of institutions, including National Treasury, DPWI, ourselves, and then members of STP's Office of Parliament, so as to make sure that we support the process and make sure that if there are issues, the issues are dealt with immediately to manage the kind of risks that are there. I think the most important thing is ensuring that as we deal with this program, we both give inputs in ensuring that the risk is well managed. So that's why the site for that was handed over in April. We started in April. After having appointed we appointed in December, but the challenge that we set with before members was the issue of the construction permit. We had to wrestle with Department of Labor, to ensure that they issued the permit for construction. We could not start if we don't have the construction permit, and then also making sure that the kind of occupational health and safety issues are intact to avoid any issue, because then our biggest risk that we want to avoid and mitigate for is to ensure that there's no fatality on the site, or there's no any particular kind of incident on the site. And that's where the major issue is for us in terms of the issue of the risk management. So otherwise, in terms of the issues of performance guarantees as requirements, that we've got everything in place. We also availed everything for audit at any point in time. That is just mainly to then say that we got the construction performance guarantee that is valid in case when the contractor fails, we are able to then deal with that. Other things about the project contract management is in place, is how we're going to manage the penalties and what are the penalty regimes that are going to apply in that particular regard. So in the next slide, we're just showing that we have started, like as I said, in April. You may not see members you may not see things really happen for now. I see that you'll see the cranes and all of that, but the crane is just for material handling for us to make sure that things really happen, because that is also one big achievement that really is important, because for now, as we started, the kind of work that is happening is basically at basement -1. So basement -2. So if you look at the basement, this is the work that is happening. As I've shown you the video, there are pillars that we're talking about. So those pillars, because the building now, we are adding another 2 floors plus the roof at the top, which has never existed before. So it needs to really be anchored very strongly from that point. So it starts from the basement -2, And then we then come up to basement -1. So at this point in time, you may not see the work is happening underground at this point in time. But I think, as we suggested before, is to say in the next session, it might be very useful to just take a turn and see the kind of the amount of work that is happening, which is very, very critical to make sure that this building can sustain for more than eternally, in terms of if one has to put it that way. So what you've seen there is that we are now in the basement, starting to deal with the structural foundations, beginning to build up from that point. And once that is completed, that's the critical work, members, for us, because if we deal with that particular aspect, then it basically tells us that this building is going to sustain every little weather conditions that we really look at, because we want to build a climate resilient parliament. And on that note, like as I said, we have got 40 pillars that we are particularly having to deal with at this point in time, coming from the floor. But the 12 main columns are the ones that will be holding the chamber, which are very, very critical in that particular point. So those are the ones that I spoke about from the video, where we're talking about 12 official languages. So they'll be protruding up, in carrying this whole entire thing up until to the banquet area and the roof. So that work has been taking place so far. If you look at it, we have already casted, if you go down there, we've already casted 14 of those particular of the pillars of the 40 columns, and then we are sitting now at 21. So, but that's just to hint the progress in terms of the number of columns that you see. So being casted, I mean that we've already then put in concrete, and then we're building them up, and that's basically the most critical work, members, in terms of what is happening there. So for now, you may not see and then say nothing is happening, but if we go in there, you'll start realizing how much of work is happening, including the fact that if you look at the pictures there is a lot of water that comes from the underground, which is what we call groundwater, that comes up. So that's what we're also then working on to solution and see how we divert that particular water. So that solution has been taken care of in terms of ensuring that at the end of the day, it doesn't clog, because the system that was used before needed to really be relooked at, and that's what we relooked at to manage the water that comes underground. But so far, that is one area that has been managed. So now, if we go to the next slide, Tsapang. I think I'm looking at my time. Next slide, Tsapang. So this is just also then beginning to then show you, the work at the ground floor. If you look at this, you can see the bigger pillars are those ones, because the current pillars that were there, because they were carrying up to a certain level, they were thinner, and then and now we've expanded them. That's why you see that particular kind of reinforced work that is working. If you look deeper down there, you'll see some great wall that is coming. So when you looked at the picture from the video, there was some bit of something that was like a dome like that. So that is what is basically, that is something that is going to be carrying the chambers. That's where the chambers will then be carried from that point. So those are the structural anchors that will then be anchoring the chamber from that point. So at this point in time, that is the kind of work that is happening, particularly on the side. So on the next slide. But that's what I'm saying, Chair, it will be very useful to be explaining these things on the side when you see them. But what we decided to do in order to make it easier for members to just look at the work that we do, we took the program in terms of the 20 months program that we have, and we said, where will we be at a certain point, so that you are able to hold us accountable and say, you said to us, you will be at this particular point, at a particular point. So we then said to ourselves, by September 2023 from the program, 2025 from the program as we sit. Now, if you look at that slide, it's just showing that we'll be sitting at around 15%, which means we would have dealt with the issues of the structural foundation bases and the columns that I've shown you, that there'll be the subsurface water that I talked about would have solution for that particular process, and it will be starting to deal with the ground floor, the mezzanine structure, columns and beams, and coming up. So we're just showing that in the next 6 months, from April to September, that's where we really will be. So, and normally in construction, it must start very slowly because of this anchoring process, but it will then pick up down the line. Then we'll start to see the program, and that will resonate with expenditure in that regard. So in 12 months, we're saying, members, we are anticipating to then have, to deal with the first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, sixth floor, structural columns. So we're looking at the structural columns for with these other floors. Like, as I said, they will be up until floor 7. So we would have dealt with that and put in the slabs at that point in time. By that time, I'm sure members, as you even enter Parliament, you start to see what's happening. That we anticipate to really be around April 2026. So that is basically according to our program, which will then be 40% at that point. And then now, in 18 months, remember we said this, we're then looking at it as a 20 months. In 18 months, we would have done the finishes in those particular kind of floors, and then we would have done internal fittings, the toilets, the chambers. You start then having a structure that you see that now is shaping up, and then we're now beginning to look at the finishes for the members' lounge, and then also in terms of the ICT and the cabling and all of that. HVAC is the heating and ventilation and air conditioning would then still be in place. So at that point in time, so that we anticipate at that point in time, in terms of program managing it well, we should really be talking 75% in terms of the progress on site. So, and in 20 months, which is the months that we are really all looking at, we're working very hard to get to, is that we'll then be completing the electronic installation, your voice evacuation access control, and then also just finalizing dealing with the landscaping and then the signage. And then at that point, we're looking at commissioning the building. And in particular, we're looking at November 2026. So at that time, the building would be practically complete at 95%. When we say practical completion, it means it can really be used. And we will then, with the 5%, somebody can say, what is then going to happen with the 5%? It's just basically to then say, we would have identified some 1 or 2 few snacks that needs to really be dealt with. But in terms of what we anticipate to do is to say, once then the building can be used, and then probably around January, we then will just be making sure that the little snacks which we call the snack list is being addressed, in order to then ensure that we are ready for February, State of the Nation address in that particular regard, so that the building will be done. But basically, for practical completion, as we provided, is that practical completion will be in November. And then that's why we said then around December we should just be polishing and dealing with some of the issues, but making sure that the little snacks, as we call it, snack list, has been addressed by the contractor at the point in time. So that is basically just outlining and making it easier, members, to just make sure that at least what journey at what point in time are the milestones that we're anticipating. So in the next slide is doing the same thing. The next slide is just giving a sense of the old assembly. The old assembly was the one that was delayed a bit because of the heritage, the South African and the Heritage Council process that we needed to comply with. So it took us really, we had to comply with their period of having to do consultations and all of that. So, but that is done, is water under the bridge. We're done with that particular process, and then we then now also then finalize the appointment of the contractor. So now what we just having to look at vigilantly is the issue of because it's an existing building, and the heritage considerations is basically to work very closely with the heritage teams to ensure that we comply with that, because then one problem, if there's anything that is done wrongly, then the heritage council might stop us, and that might delay the process, the program, and delay the refurbishment. So, but we're confident because we do have a very close relationship with them. We're working together. We have heritage consultants on a daily basis. They'll really be part in that team. We've infused everyone, that including the heritage, so that we don't find ourselves in the wrong side of the process. So now on this slide, I was just wanting to demonstrate to say, like, we've just appointed the contractor at 1.3 billion. That's why the 2.2 plus 2.2 plus 1.3. That's why we're saying the total value for the 2 buildings is going to be 3.6, and then the period is about 18 months. So, if you go to the next slide, the next slide, again, we attempted to do that. And this contractor we just appointed now, I mean, they just started now. We also then took their program, sat down with them, then we both agreed in terms of also wanting to understand where will we be in December 2025. So then we're saying in 5 months from now, as they started now, so we should have dealt with a number of things, including the stripping of the heritage items and excavations, all of that. the building. So we're looking at in the next 5 months having achieved those milestones. So we just outlined those milestones to say to you, in 5 months we'll be here, in 10 months we'll be there, in terms of the structural foundation in 10 months. In 15 months, we should be dealing with the brickwork and the finishes. And then in 18 months, we are saying we should then be dealing with the issue of electronic installation and ICT. And then again, as we said, the issues of signages and all of that, and commissioning and testing. Because this one, obviously, like as we said, we just did now. So we anticipate that we then should be completed by that time for testing and handover by January 2027, and it will then catch up and synchronize so that these two buildings can really be observed at the same time as the National Assembly and Old Assembly, so in February. So now that is basically the timelines that we getting from the program, and then we monitoring closely that particular program and really working very hard with the contractor, the consultants, Parliament, and everyone involved to make sure that these milestones are achieved, and we really then achieve and get these buildings completed. So in the next slide, Chair.
How much time do you have?
Yeah, I think I'll just finish with this one, Chairman, just 3 minutes. On the other side, Chair, as we have done, I've talked about the offices. We created those 155 offices, and then Parliament also indicated there's a deficit of another 55 offices. So they are identified in Plain Street, 3rd floor, 8th floor, 9th floor, and 10th floor for us to then, augment on the offices for members. So in addition to the 55 that we have done, so the scope, as you see, there is on the 3rd floor, we are creating 55 members' offices and 3 committee rooms. And those 55 offices, if you go there now, Chair, you'll find them, the partition has already been done. They're now looking like offices. It's just that we're dealing with the services. Services, I'm talking of we're now dealing with the issues of electrical, air conditioning, and ICT just to network it. But otherwise, those ones are really much more progress. So 3rd, 8th, 9th, and 10th floor, those is the scope for the refurbishment on the 90 plane. So if we go to the next slide, Sapan, quickly. So it's just this. I'm just trying to show you. We're trying to show you that on the 3rd floor, we're fully decanted. When I say fully decanted, we say we've moved everybody out of that, and then now we have now started mapping them up. So partitioning has been done, and then for now, we're expecting to finish this on 31st of August. So 31st of August, you'll see fully fledged offices like we see on the 4th floor. So that will be done. So, and then on the 8th floor, again, which is the offices for facing the Plain Street, and those will be done by the 30th of September. So that is basically just to give you a little bit of progress on that one. Again, that is also work that is in progress. In the next slide, it's also to then say, okay, maybe before that, the issue of 9th and 10th floor. The 9th and the 10th floor, we're managing that process because it's where the DITS office has been accommodated. So we are looking at, they are busy looking at decanting or getting out of those particular floors. And that is the only risk we're faced with at this point in time, which we're managing to try and ensure that they move as quick as possible out of those particular kind of floors so that those floors can really be correctly repartitioned and then the offices are created. So now, the major risk in this regard is basically that risk of the decanting and relocation of office of the Surveyor General's offices from the 9th floor. But Parliament is handling that particular process, and then I think we should really get them sooner. But we're a little bit it's actually affected a little bit, but we need to just push it to really get to happen. So in the last slide, Chair, it's just to indicate to you that we are also observing the issue of development impact in terms of what this particular program is going to really give. So these are the jobs that we've already created in the space, obviously 947, with what we've already done at this point in time. But we anticipate to then say, given the overall program, we might be sitting at a plus minus 1,680 kind of jobs that we might be creating in this regard from the new assembly, old assembly, and these offices. So that will then be detailed, including the work integrated learning, where we getting the students to then get involved in the process of this. So in the next slide, which is the last one, probably, Chair, for me, is just to indicate to then say the cost for the program as a whole from old assembly and as well as the National Assembly and all of this demolition. So we're looking at the total program cost of about 4.4 billion included with that. But so far, as we say, we've already spent with what has been happening, what we have done, 574 million, is just to indicate to you that's the cost. And obviously these figures are reconciled with Parliament every month. They're reconciled with Treasury, they're reconciled with ourselves to make sure that the cost report is quite well given to that effect. So that is just to give a sense of saying ultimately the entire program of Parliament is at a cost of around 4.4, and then the major items being the National Assembly and the Old Assembly. So, Chair, let me not further take any further of your time. I think thank you so much for indulgence. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. AGSA, Ms. Adams.
Perfect. Good morning, Honourable Chair and Honourable Co-Chairs, Honourable Members, Secretary of Parliament, and all protocol observed. Really an honour for us then to come and give feedback based on the specific request that was requested from the Joint Committee. Number one, relating to the work that we've done in the prior year, relating to the rebuild. Secondly, also the role and responsibility of the AG on the real-time audit. That was a request. And then lastly, just clarifying what our role and responsibility will be in this regard. So I know they are putting up the presentation from the other side. So without further ado, if I can go then to the first slide of the presentation, that specifically speaks about the focus areas where we will be focusing on from the audit perspective. So I think the first area of focus, Zini, are you okay with? Oh, okay. It's being flighted. Okay. But the members can't see the slides. Is that fine? So I think in terms of the first slide, it's just in terms of our role and responsibility as the AGSA, and coming directly from our constitutional mandate that we ensure that we provide oversight, governance, and accountability in the work that we do. But specifically in the areas that we are auditing, the first part being on the financial statements, where we've got a responsibility then to give an opinion on the set of financial statements that it fairly presents. And specifically coming back to the Directive 5 that has been issued by the Accounting Standards Board, so we audit in terms of that directive. The second area we look is in the performance information area, where we basically look in terms of the SMART principles that Parliament comply with that, and then also on the reliability of the performance information that is submitted. And then for all Parliament and legislatures, we also look from a compliance to laws and regulation with specifically focus on FAMPLA, where have they complied with the necessary legislation in this regard. So that's just overarching the key focus areas that we normally would audit when we do the work for the year under review. But specifically, if I can then focus on the work that we've specifically done on the rebuild and what the intention of and the purpose of the work, important for our side from an audit perspective, knowing was about 2.1 billion committed from a national treasury perspective, specifically for the rebuild project. And we know in the 23-24 financial year, Parliament received about 1.1 billion of this funding, and in the current financial year, about 1.6 billion in total for the funding. So as recorded in the financial statements in the prior year, about 146 million was spent to date on this specific project. So what was important for us from an AGSA perspective, when we specifically looked at the scope of the work, I think it was important for us to understand the roles and responsibility between Parliament and DPCI being an implementing agency, and who takes accountability for what. So the first part of the work was very much focused to make sure whatever information is disclosed in our annual financial statements accurately reflects the position at Parliament based on the money that has been spent to date, with specific focus of the building under construction and how will that impact the work in progress as it will be disclosed by Parliament. Secondly, as included in the financial statements, there's also prepayments that goes to DBSA specifically for the project costs incurred. So as auditors, we need to satisfy ourselves relating to the validity, accuracy of that information. And lastly, it was relating to the related party transaction. Then from a compliance perspective, taking into account also it's a key focus area, we specifically did work around procurement and contract management for those different phases of the project, with specific focus also from an expenditure management perspective, is the money appropriately spent for its intended purpose? And then lastly, just in terms of the memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement between Parliament and DBSA. I think for us, why this was important specifically, when we clarify the roles and responsibility and when there's any non-compliance with legislation, where will it be disclosed firstly, and who will bear cost of that irregular expenditure in terms of the disclosure if any of that is discovered. The last part that we will spend a bit of time on, Honourable Chair, was on the infrastructure delivery. And for the first part, for 23-24, as we know, the management report has been shared with the honourable members. There was an annexure included in that management report where we highlighted key findings that we have uncovered, specifically in the areas that we were looking at 90 Plain Street, the National Assembly, the Old Assembly, and then the whole demolition package that we've looked at. But more importantly, specifically the work that we did around this specific area was on the planning part, where we basically look, was the appropriate needs assessment done? Is the appropriate feasibility study that is in place? And we will share just the reflections on that and what has been the follow-up. Furthermore, the implementation part that deals specifically from a professional service perspective, and also the monitoring and supervision in that regard. The third area that we looked at was more from a project management focusing, looking at the costs, the timeliness, and then the quality of the project. And lastly, we also normally focus on the commissioning part of the specific project. Now, specifically based on the observations that we have issued last year to Parliament in this specific area, specifically on the financial statement side, what was important for us from our side is to ensure that whatever expenditure incurred has been appropriately disclosed, and also in terms of the construction of the assets, year to date, the work in progress has been appropriately disclosed. So in this instances, there was matters identified in the prior audit that I can indicate has been resolved and has been corrected. So in the set of the financial statements of the prior year, and it was adjusted appropriately. And also in terms of the disclosure of the related party transaction that Parliament then had to disclose. And there was no other matters that's been identified specifically on the prepayment side. Then on the compliance to laws and regulation, we specifically looked at those specific areas when it comes to procurement and contract management. So in those areas also there was no significant finding that's been identified. And then the last part is just in terms of the observations relating to the 23-24 work that we've done from an infrastructure perspective. So members did have access to the management report. So what we thought would be important to do here this morning is just to share, based on those findings that we've raised in the prior year, there has been progress made to date in a lot of these matters has been resolved. So I'm going to ask Elno Marais, which is our senior manager from our performance audit, just to take us high level through those matters and how those matters has been resolved.
Good morning, Honourable Chair, co-chairs and members and STP. So in terms of the work that we've done on 90 Plain Street, and that would have been the 4th and 5th floor refurbishments, the National and Old Assembly, the planning work that was done, and then the demolition package for the National and Old Assembly. The key observation...
May you please push the microphone closer to Amal.
The key observation across these three projects were that there were delays between the planned completion dates and the actual completion dates. However, we did note that there were valid reasons for these delays. So, for example, on the 90 Plain Street, there was a need for additional mechanical works during the construction phase. The approach that was followed, because there was a lack of as-built drawings or building plans, led to an exploratory approach being followed. So the need for this additional mechanical works could only be identified while construction was ongoing. And also the lack of maintenance over a number of years on these buildings, mechanical and electrical systems, contributed then to the need for this additional mechanical works. So the project was then completed in February 2024. And then for these future projects, I think that the DBSA mentioned, for the other floors, the intention and action was to work in closer collaboration with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure for these future renovation work. Then in terms of the planning for the National and Old Assembly, there were some delays during the formal approval processes for the planning, the gateway reviews. And the reasons that we identified for these delays was that the review committee members were doing this on a voluntary basis. They needed to be independent. They were used on a voluntary basis, and that contributed to the delays. As mentioned also by DBSA, the heritage application processes then also contributed to some delays. So for the final phases of the planning, a different review committee members were enlisted, and that then resulted in the approvals being obtained on 27 June 24 for the National Assembly and 9 January 25 for the Old Assembly. Then the demolition package. So again, this is a very complex process, and the work had to be done during the actual demolition process. Once the contractor has been appointed, he had to appoint structural engineers to determine the exact process that needed to be followed during this demolition process. So the initial time set out for this project was not sufficient for all the work that needed to be done. So the planned date of 4 October 24 was not achieved, but the project was completed on 4 April 25 with strict oversight from DBSA and management. So our assessment was that this delay was not avoidable. It was unavoidable due to the complexity of the demolition. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, just on the last question then, this would be my last slide that I will be presenting. And there was a specific question that, that was asked relating to the real-time audit. And are we actually performing the real-time audit? So in terms just of the context here on the real-time audit, I think important that we know with the aim of the real-time audit, it does assist with preventative and detective mechanisms. So early detection is basically done by issues that's been identified before the completion of the project. So as we go along through the project, these matters are identified and brought to the accounting officer's attention and then to the executive authority's attention. And this will assist that we immediately then deal with any weaknesses in the control system that could result in the project not be completed on time or any wastage of money that could be occurring. So important for the Parliament rebuild specifically, we're not specifically doing a real-time audit. So from our perspective, important that if that request come, it needs to come by the executive authority and accounting officer. But what we have agreed to incorporate the rebuild work as part of our normal audit process. So as we go along with the audit process, the rebuild is included, and those findings are then, if any, immediately communicated then to the accounting officer that will then take appropriate action where necessary. So from that perspective, even from last year, we've included an annexure in the management report where those findings were reported. And I think similar, that was the arrangement then for the current year. Any key findings that we will report will then form part of the management report. I think important for us why this part is also so important because we have seen over the number of years, specifically on the work that we've done on infrastructure projects. And there's specific root causes that we've identified that stems from the work that we've done. And one of the things I want to maybe just, Chair, through you, allude members to, there is a preventative control guide that we've got available specifically on infrastructure project. And I think what makes this preventative control guide so relevant, it basically goes into the various roles and responsibility of key role players, being it the accounting officer, the executive authority, and also from an oversight perspective. And it helps even to probe with specific questions when it comes to the implementation of this project. And here this morning, we saw the detailed implementation plan that was then presented by the DPSA of when certain things will happen. So in this guide also it speaks about what are the probing questions that from this oversight committee they can ask during the implementation phases of this project. So we thought important that we just share this information, but that is then the end of our presentation, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adams and your colleagues for the presentation. Honorable members, can I take hands of those members who want to interact with the presentation made by the DPCI? We're starting with the DPCI. Honorable Van Rooyen, is your hand up, Honorable Bidenhorst? Yeah. It was up. Okay. Honorable Van Rooyen. Maybe let me first check with the Honorable Deputy Minister and Brigadier Ramova if they are still on the line.
No, we are still on the line, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
And also the acting national head, General Nkosi, they have reconnected. They are okay. Thank you, Chair.
Welcome, General Nkosi. Maybe just to add to the list of speakers, we have Honorable Khadebe and Honorable Clark. I don't see any further hands, and I do not like a situation where members get triggered by what is being said by others. So I am going to close the list on the 4 hands that I have noted. Honorable Van Rooyen.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me start by acknowledging presentations that have been shared with us. I will start with the Hawks. I'm not sure, Chair, because as we speak of Parliament, we speak of a national key point. Now, one thing that one can tell from a distance is that how the Parliament was spent is something that is characterized by a lot of peculiarities. And I can indicate that one of those peculiarities questions the basic security provisions of this national key point as to how someone who, I mean, preliminary were informed that it's a psychiatric case. And of course, it seems as if even when you look at the appearance of the identified offender or potential offender, because the processes of investigations are still ongoing. But if you listen to some of the presentations that he has made, maybe during his appearance in court, it tells that, yeah, the prospects of a psychiatric problem are very, very possible. As to how that happened, how was it easy for him to access this national key point, but also took his time to cause the damage and the destruction that we are currently dealing with? Does that suggest that from a security point of view, the provisions of this institution are not necessarily effective or efficient? But what I wanted to check, because the Hawks are only referring to Mr. Murphy, what about the broader mandate of establishing what might have been other, because breach of security protocols, to me, it's a criminal offense. I'm not sure, maybe it's not categorized as such in your own literature, but I think if there are people who are charged with the responsibility of providing security to the national key point, and that security is breached, to me, that's an offense. So as to how the mandate of the Hawks is only focusing on the alleged, offender, without focusing on the broader picture of the lack or the absence of security provisions for a national key point. I think some elucidation will be very, very, or maybe highly appreciated. On the DVSA,
let's stop it there, and then you will come back later.
or you want us to separate the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I want us to deal with the matter of the DPCI separately from, yeah.
No, thank you very much.
Honorable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, and good morning to all our colleagues online, and let me appreciate the presentation. Chair, so with the fire in Parliament, there's three things to my mind that comes up. There's the investigation by the Hawks, there's the internal investigation by Parliament, and then there's a police investigation. And I think we've been appraised a little bit about the police investigation. We've had a presentation about that. So today's presentation by the Hawks, I mean, if you look at the Hawks' mandate, and they put it in their presentation, so I'll refer to that. The Hawks investigate national priority offences. So their scope would be serious corruption investigations, serious organized crime investigations, and serious commercial crime investigations. So the main question I think I have is around whether their presentation today answers the mandate that they have. Because their presentation talks about an individual, which is allegedly responsible because there's been no court case yet. This person has been held in a institution for psychiatric evaluation, and as far as I understand, the courts are still determining whether he's fit to stand trial, and then he doesn't want to stand trial on his own. And there's a lot of stuff there, and he's been sitting there for 2 years. But the Hawks have been is mandated to investigate something, like my colleague alluded to, bigger than what just the police and just Parliament investigate.
Did you hear him when he said this is a national key point?
So can I finish my question, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm just giving background. So therefore, the question here should be whether Mafe was in possession of stuff that could have assisted him in being part of organized crime or serial commercial crime type of setup. In other words, did he have a cell phone? Did he speak to anybody while he was in Parliament? How long was he in Parliament? What did he do on that cell phone? No mention is made of this. There's property mentioned in the report, but no mention is made of a cell phone. So did the Hawks investigate who he made phone calls to while he was in Parliament during that period of making fires? Because he was apparently seen with a cell phone, and he made phone calls on that cell phone. Did they extend their investigation to Parliament itself and to SAPS as well, or did they just concentrate on Mafe because they caught him? And did they use their mandate in that investigation? In other words, corruption, because that's what their mandate is essentially. Thank you very much.
Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairperson, and my colleagues on the platform and in the house there in the Kutup Center, and all the participants in this meeting. Really, I'll also lash in on what my colleagues who came before me said. One, let's look at the mandate of the Hawks, is to prevent, to combat, and investigate. Let us, this issue of only focusing on Mafe, I think is misdirected, because let us be honest here, is that when the Parliament was burned down, it was during the period where the Zondo Commission was about to present a report. It was 2022. It came when, again, where there were riots in 2021. Again, what is critical here, I like the fact that they acknowledge that he made political demands. One of the political demands was to attack the head of state of South Africa, President Ramaphosa. Number two, that the Parliament here said that was identified so that the president cannot basically run the country, account to the country. And number two, he was also linked, he mentioned Janas Walus, a right-wing person who nearly brought this country who burned this country up into flames in 1993. And then number three, he made some sort of social demands. So it shows that there was no way he was acting alone. He might have been said to be xenophobic now, but I don't know whether they dug deeper in his background, where he grew up, what work was he doing, where he was trained, because he's only a trained person who can be able to observe what is happening, because from the initial footings you had around the case, is that man was there for quite some time around the precinct, not inside Parliament, around the precinct of Parliament. So we know very well that even people who are used to commit these heinous crimes of this nature, they can actually be pumped with drugs so that by the time they appear in court, they appear as if they are deranged. So I don't know whether the Hawks have widened the net so that the people who are around him were investigated. And then number two, Chairperson, this issue of Parliament being a national key point, I think that we did receive a report before on how the security was breached, and then we really appreciate Parliament again that it dealt with those people who were accountable for the breach. But is the Parliament did it now put in place the system so that this thing can never happen again? Because the assault of Parliament is actually the attack the sovereignty of the state of South Africa. Is the Parliament, is it working closely with the police? Is the Parliament protection working close with the police so that this act again never happens? As an act of, because their mandate is to prevent, are the Hawks again continuously engaged on the stakeholders around Parliament so that this thing can never happen again? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Clark.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm basically covered. The mind is boggled about how he was able to be in Parliament and on the precinct for so long, and no one picked this up being a national key point. And then, Chairperson, I'm not going to repeat the same questions over because my colleagues have done that. There was just one issue that I'd like to add on is, can we be told whether the insurance company paid anything out for the damages once that fire had taken place, or whether the insurance company repudiated the claims and on what basis? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Minister, the honorable members are saying one thing here in many ways, in many voices, that the presentation that has been made here by the Hawks or Brigadier Ramova did not say investigations are continuing. So that is why honorable members want to know if there is a possibility that the Hawks may be investigating a wider scope. I think that is, in short, what is being asked by honorable members here. Can we get your responses?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to members for their comments and questions. I will request the Acting National Head, Lieutenant General Nkosi, to lead in the responses on the questions raised by members. Thank you. Over to you, General Nkosi, through you, Chair.
Thank you very much, still morning. Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. And let me respond to the questions that have been raised. And should there be additions, my team in the Western Cape would be able to provide. First, let me deal with the question that deals...
General Nkosi, with due respect, I see Mr. Van Rooyen wants to make an addition.
Thank you.
No, not just, not an addition, Chair. I just wanted to check because we don't know General Nkosi. I'm not sure, maybe, is there a way in which he can show a face as we know who's presenting to us?
Yeah, he is acting head. He's new in this responsibility. General Nkosi.
No, he can show the face, Chair. I think I should have led by example. I'm sorry. I should have led by example to open my camera, Chair, and request that General Nkosi must do the same as well. Thank you, Chair.
No, the request is accepted. General Nkosi, with due respect, you are requested to turn on your camera.
I just want to let you know, Chair, you know, we are worried you might be addressed by Mohotsi, not the general. So
Honorable Van Rooyen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
General Nkosi,
yes, Chairperson.
We humbly request that you turn on your camera so that Honorable Van Rooyen can be satisfied that you are not Brown Mohotsi. He comes from the western part of Gauteng, which is closer to the northwest. So he should be able to distinguish between you and General Nkosi. Please. Honorable Deputy Minister, the camera, I think it's like General Nkosi, when he turns on his camera, there should be network problems.
Yeah, there shouldn't be that, Chair. General Nkosi, if you have difficulties with opening your camera, can we ask General Mboto to open up his camera and talk to the issues that has been raised? But I don't understand why you can't open your camera.
And South Africa is in trouble if a general cannot open a camera.
I think, Honorable Chairperson, can I proceed? My system had to kick me out when
Is that you that we see on the camera?
I believe it's me. Let me touch myself.
If you can just introduce yourself and we see you saying, I am General Nkosi.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and the members. I am Lieutenant General S.T. Nkosi, the Deputy.
You can switch off the camera if it gives you difficulties.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Okay, thank you very much. Let me then deal with the questions and as indicated by the Honorable Chairperson, with regard to the issue of whether the DPCI is considering a wider scope of the investigation. That is in any way the all-encompassing question. I can indicate that the progress that we gave this morning is central, or it is progress that obviously focuses on the arrested individual. But the investigation has gone beyond Mr. Mafe as the arrested individual. We have obtained several statements and interviewed several individuals for clarity regarding their association or perceived or suspected involvement in the matters. As an example, in the case docket itself, we have a total of 56 affidavits that were obtained. And these are not only affidavits from individuals, they also include the affidavits from our digital forensic investigation teams. This is the team that worked on the cell phone. There was a question that was asked about whether we did include investigation surrounding the cell phones that the individual was having. So we did, and as an example, contact numbers of individuals that were found in the gadget, they were also approached and interviewed just to get an understanding of how they associate or how they are linked to Mr. Mafe. And towards what we are in any way doing, and the fact that the parliament is a national key point, the matter ended up being investigated by the DPCI, or was referred to the DPCI precisely because national priority offenses would include what we call crimes against the state. So if there is an attack or commission of a crime that is directed to Parliament, it is a matter that we consider or is classified as a national priority offense. And the presentation, yes, in our view, caters for our mandate because we are then having the case. The cell phone, as indicated, we had downloaded the phone. We have obtained telephone billing. We have interviewed people of interest and obtained statements from them. As to indicate whether further investigation is still continuing or not, in the event or if we are able to establish new leads or to obtain new information that requires to be actioned, we will obviously follow those leads. And also to indicate that the investigation is conducted in collaboration with all critical stakeholders. Information that is made available to us will obviously be shared with crime intelligence, as an example, and to ask them to enhance such information in ensuring that we leave no stone unturned in this matter. But as for now, the matter is awaiting the report that will come from the treating institution, whether this individual is fit to stand trial or not. I can just pause the Honorable Chairperson, and I'm not sure from the colleagues in the Western Cape whether there is something I'm leaving out, because they are actually the ones handling the matter. Thank you.
Maybe even before we check for additions, the one part of Honorable Van Rooyen's question was about Parliament as a national key point. How could it have been easily possible for a person to gain access into the premises if that does not compromise or jeopardize your investigations?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It is indeed a valid question that also the investigation also seeks to answer. But we do have in the South African Police Service the division that deals with the security aspect. I think one can always, unfortunately, I don't have the answer now to say how possible and how easy it was. But one can obviously get more details, because I think it also speaks to whatever initiatives and security protocols that would have been enhanced to make sure that such a matter does not repeat itself. Ours, in what we have put together for the presentation today, was just to demonstrate that through the investigations and obviously reports that are received from the security analysts, was that this individual entered from a specific point, and when he started the fire, he started it also from a particular point. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Yeah, Chair, if I may comment a bit on the matter. We did discuss this matter and with the presiding officers and gave a report of what transpired. And I think Honorable Khadebe spoke a bit on that without going into details, that going forward, there is a need to ensure that such lapses doesn't take place. And I think there were steps taken against people who did not act in a manner that they should have acted. Here we were requested to give an update, and we have been coming to give an update on the matter. It's not the first interface that we are having with members, but we are not saying if members feel that we must have a detailed presentation again on the same matter, we should not do so. We are willing to come and do that. We came with the view of just taking the committee on board in terms of where we are on the issues. I thought I should just add that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Honorable Baden-Horst has a follow-up question.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. Appreciating that this is an update on the Hawks report, could they let us know whether the report, the investigation so far is based on just one person responsible, or are there more people involved in the action that took place on that day? And then by when could we expect this investigation to be concluded? Thank you.
Honorable Van Rooyen.
Yeah, Chair, I think according to the response from the Deputy Minister and what Honorable Khadebe raised, it's clear that there is a report that has been shared with Parliament. Maybe if that report can be shared with the committee, so as we link it with the current process. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe what the Deputy Minister, the Honorable Deputy Minister may have to explain is whether in their engagement with the presiding officers, they presented a formal report, or if it was just a briefing, so that we understand the context and not labor under the impression that there could have been a formal report or a written report that could have been presented in that meeting. Honorable Deputy Minister, you'll clarify that. Honorable Baden-Horst is inquiring General Nkosi whether in terms of your investigations, you are only confined to Mr. Mafe as the suspect, or does that extend to other possible accomplices, or if there are any other theories around this incident?
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairperson, for the question. I can just indicate that the current available information or facts does not add any other individual. So I'm speaking at this stage, but obviously investigation is a systematic, scientific, systematic search for the truth never ends. Should there be information that gets to our attention, we obviously follow through on that. As indicated earlier on as well, that there is a collaboration. If should information be availed, we will engage with all other critical stakeholders just to ensure that we follow through. But in short, for now, only Mr. Mafe. There is no other specific person that has been identified to be cited as a possible suspect. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
We can close
Chair,
on the point that investigations are continuing. Is that so, General Nkosi?
Yes, we continue, Chairperson. Thank you.
I think that is what Honorable Baden-Horst wanted to hear, so that next time when you come and say we have included another suspect, he does not say, but the last time you said it's only Mr. Mafe who was being investigated. So you must have heard it, Honorable Baden-Horst, that investigations are continuing. And in case the net gets wider, they will always come here and share the progress with us. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair, and thanks for General Nkosi for that. The interaction that we have had with the presiding officers on the matter, I think we can go back and bring the presentations that were done. The details, as you have explained, Chair, I might not sit here and say, no, we submitted this form of a report or that. But I know that we have interacted with the institution on the matter immediately after the incident. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Honorable Clark.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just wanted to know, under my question around the insurance, who would be able to answer that? The rebuild of Parliament or the Auditor-General? Thank you.
Yeah, it does not belong to the DPCI. It's a matter which I think the STP will respond to. Let me take this opportunity and thank the Deputy Minister and General Ngosi and your team. The matters that we are dealing with together with your presentation are matters of national interest. If you still want to remain in the meeting with us, you are allowed, but if there are other competing national commitments that you must go and perform, we are going to gladly release you. We want to thank you so much for your presentations and the responses that you gave before this committee. At any stage in your investigations, if you feel that you want to take the committee into confidence, you can always request an engagement with us, and we'll be freely available to listen to your progress reports. We thank you so much. Any parting shots?
No, thank you, Chair and committee members for the comments. We really appreciate that, and thank you for allowing us to disconnect so that we can attend to other pressing matters. We really appreciate that. We are more than willing at any time to come and update the committee, but we will also from our side, if there are issues that arises which might need us to interact with yourselves, we will reach out to do that. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for the engagement. Much appreciated.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, we are now jointly taking the discussions on the presentation by DBSA and AGSA. Honorable Baden-Horst.
Just want to ask, Chair, we dealt with the Hawks' presentation and the investigation now, but with regards to the fire, there's also, remember, SAPS is responsible for the security on the precinct, and then obviously Parliament also had an investigation done internally. Will the committee be dealing with that in the near future as well? With those, because I remember Parliament at one stage there was a press release by the STP that said that they're investigating. Some of the staff were investigated. I think some of the staff were suspended. Will we be able to investigate? Will we be able to have oversight over that process as well, please?
Your request is that in our future meetings, let's have reports on those internal processes and the SAPS processes available. SAPS is routinely stationed here, isn't it?
So I'm sorry, Chair, I don't want to have a conversation with you. It's not my intention, but so SAPS is responsible for the security of Parliament. That was said in one of our previous meetings. SAPS, not parliamentary.
That's what I'm saying.
The SAPS would have done an internal investigation with regards to how the breach happened.
Yeah. And Parliament also did
Parliament had an investigation,
internal investigation. So
because some staff members were suspended in Parliament, so we need to obviously have oversight over that investigation, whether the investigation is concluded. If it's not concluded, why is members being suspended, staff members? So we need to have oversight over that process as well, if we can, please.
I think that is a fair point, Honorable Baden-Horst. It should feature in our next meeting, STP, just to get a report of what were your investigations and what were the consequences. And maybe the report from SAPS, because they are forever here, is their responsibility, like he says, for the safekeeping of the national key point. So we should get those reports. STP?
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. The report on the fire, as indicated, was multi-pronged. There is this criminal part led by the Hawks, as reported. There was also a SAPS aspect on their interface in guarding the precinct. There was also a parliamentary one. So in the sixth parliament, there were report updates that were given to the Joint Standing Committee on each of those respective investigations. And then in respect of the seventh parliament, honorable members may have forgotten that part. There was a briefing on the 28th of March by the Parliament administration on the implementation of the outcomes of the fire investigation by Parliament administration. So it was given here on the 28th of March. What actions, what were the findings, and the related consequence management in that regard. So if members would require us to represent that, we will do so, or we could either through the Secretariat resubmit that report, or Secretariat can just recirculate to members. Thanks.
Honorable Badenhorst.
Yeah, I would then, it opens up more questions now. So I would then like to ask, can we get, has the report been finalized? What is the report called? Who was the service provider for that report? And can we get that report and maybe the people involved to come and do presentations to our committee? I don't recall what the STP now said has been handled completely. If there was a parliamentary report and if members were suspended, were they suspended in terms of the report? Has the report been finalized? And can we get that report in front of our committee, please? The full report.
Honorable Van Ryan.
Yeah, I think if the report was presented as indicated by the Parliament Secretary, I think it's just to recirculate it, and we'll then make a determination as individual members if is there a need for further discussion, and then we'll definitely register that with your leadership, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Chair, there was a presentation, but there wasn't a report. Can we see the report? I think it's the Abacus report that I'd like to see. Thank you, Chair.
You need the raw version of the report.
Yeah, we saw a presentation, but there's a Parliament paid for a report, and we spent money on it. So I'd like to know how much money was spent on it and where is that report, and can we see it in our committee, please? Because that report deals with the suspension of staff members in Parliament. And I'd like to see that report, please, specifically.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
STP, has the sixth Parliament dealt with that report? Or were there still outstanding matters?
Chairperson, at the conclusion of the report, we did present a detailed report on the findings and the actions that have been taken. And like any other report, these reports are not in isolation. There were reports that were reinforcing on the various components of the multi-pronged investigations. So certain aspects of the report either fed to the Hawks criminal dimension of the investigation and or vice versa. So there are certain protocols that govern reports that pertain to forensic investigation, and legal services of Parliament handles that part. But if there's a report about how much was paid and who was carrying the investigation, certainly we can make that information available to the committee in terms of its oversight role.
Yeah, no, let me close this item on what Honorable Van Rooyen has said. We need to move forward. And like I've said, if there are questions that need to be clarified, let us know what those questions are. And we clarify them and move forward. We are one institution of parliament. Whether we are the 5th administration or we are the 6th administration, 7th administration, what remains we are parliament of the republic, and our work is successive. So if there is work that has been done in 1994, we must accept that that work has been done. And if there is work that has been done in 1999, we must accept that it has been done and that period has passed. And then we have to move forward, unless if there are pertinent matters that arise. And that is basically why at the end of every term, there is what you call a legacy report. That helps you to say, this is what is still outstanding, and this is what has been exhaustively dealt with. But the presentation of the legacy report is not about exhuming the dead. It's about using the foundation that has been laid to propel your movement forward. And so this matter must be considered, presented, unless there are any other questions like those STP, how much money has been spent on the procurement of services of the service provider who would have investigated, and probably what action has been taken if the report has had recommendations, and if the protocols do not allow you to make that raw report available for security reasons or any other reason pertinent, let us live with what we have. And like I have said in previous meetings, this committee has to move forward and focus on the work that it has to do. That is playing oversight on administration in terms of the provisions of the FAMPLA Act. There must not be any distraction. There must not be anything that derail our oversight responsibility. Can we move to, like I said, to the presentation of the DPSA and the AGSA? Honorable Van Rooyen.
Thank you very much, Chair. On the confirmed allocation of 3.8 billion, I just wanted to check the projected risk of the said project, because I think they cited some of them. And of course, what one needs to confirm is if the mitigation plan to avoid things like project overruns, how robust is this mitigation plan? I'm asking this, Chair, because I don't want tomorrow when there are overruns, then we are told of certain unforeseen circumstances. Because the details of that plan should be such robust that we don't have project overruns in future. But I'm happy that there's also some positive initiative by the AG's office where they speak of preventative control guidelines, I mean, for project of this magnitude. Obviously, I hope DPCI and Parliament will have to incorporate the set guidelines into their mitigation plan. Definitely, I think it will go a long way to make sure that the project is executed within the determined time frame. Secondly, Chair, I'm not sure if the apartheid era statue that is in front of this Parliament, is it part of our rebuild project? I'm saying this because if not, personally, I know this is not a party position, but personally, what is the rationale of retaining such if the intention is to Africanize our Parliament? Because I think this statue will definitely undermine our efforts to Africanize this institution. If there's no, that's not part of a rebuild project because it was not banned by the alleged offender. Is there any, I'm not sure what is the view of DPCI and Parliament. Do they see this maybe in the same perspective that I'm currently sharing with this meeting? Or maybe do they see it differently? How will this enhance Africanization of Parliament if we retain this statue? Maybe they might be having some recommendations, because personally, I don't think it makes sense that we keep statues of people who oppressed and killed our people in the past while we are trying to Africanize our Parliament. I will be very much appreciative of your view on this statue. Or or maybe in your opinion, it might enhance the Africanization of Parliament, and that's something that personally I don't support. But it will be important just to hear your view, because if really the commitment is to Africanize this institution, with that statue, I think no, I don't think we are making any good progress. But anyway, I will leave that to capable what to call maybe analysis. Thank you very much.
Honorable Clark.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Chairperson. Just a few things. I mean, in the presentation, they added a 10% risk in terms of risks, for example, bad weather, etc. Does that 10% then align with the project managers and to ensure that they don't oversubscribe on that 10% in terms of the penalty clauses that are imposed on the contractor? And then secondly, how many subcontractors is the contractor employing, and how will the risk management align to those subcontractors in terms of penalty clauses, etc.? And then, of course, my question about the insurance, what was paid out, or was the whole claim repudiated? And if so, on what basis? Thank you.
Honorable Bedenost.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll combine both the DPCI and the Auditor General. So the main concern I have is when you appoint a main contractor, the leakage normally doesn't happen at the main contractor's level. It happens with subcontractors. And if you look at our history, it's rife where there's money that goes missing on projects. Things go wrong when you have subcontractors. And I'll give you an example of this is in the management report, the Auditor General refers to the appointment of a specific subcontractor. It was, I think, Mazia, who was the subcontractor for the demolishment of Parliament, or a certain part of the demolishment work of Parliament. And so in their findings, they say after the contractor was appointed, DPCI issued contract instructions to instruct the contractor to appoint nominated subcontractors no evidence was provided that an open and competitive process was followed in the appointment of the nominated subcontractors. The tender documentation indicated that it was a closed tender, and no evidence was provided that the tender documentation was provided to any other tenderer other than the appointed nominated subcontractor. Furthermore, a motivation to deviate from inviting competitive bids for the appointment of nominated subcontractors were also not provided as required by the Treasury regulation, and that regulation was then mentioned. So how will the Auditor General manage that? I mean, how do we ensure that there's no leakage when it comes to subcontract regards to DBSA as the implementing agent? I mean, you all know Mazia was in the news again yesterday with Transnet, 18 billion rand tender fraud allegations there. And so this company keeps on popping up, and there's the Auditor General. I want to know, have you investigated that subcontractor and the process of the appointment of that subcontractor? Because not all the work that they were subcontracted to do were done. And I heard the DBSA harped on the level of I just forgot the grading, that they are level 8 grading. But I mean, that means nothing, because a contractor can get level 8 grading by demolishing 500 houses and getting to a value of 40 million rand, and then the CIBD could give them that grading. I'm really concerned that we are opening the door here for a lot of money, public money going missing due to our lack of who is the main contractor, lack of oversight over who is the main contractor subcontracting to. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ndlovu.
Thanks, Co-Chair. I think one of the things that we must also indicate is to also comment the presentation of the DBSA, because amongst the presentation, there is an indication that they have added the two floors on the construction on the building. It's one of the things that they've indicated. I also want to emphasize, Chair, that the sooner the better the committee do the inspection. Because if we don't do that, we'll continuously come to the meeting and ask questions, because if we don't do the inspection now or sooner, it's going to keep on creating a problem and asking lots of questions. So can the STP, please, the sooner the better we do the inspection, and all of us, we go there, some of the questions we'll be able to get them as we'll be on site. Thanks very much.
Can I, Honorable Dagmore? Then maybe as you come in, can I check if we still have further hands, because I'm going to close the list. It appears that Honorable Dagmore, you are going to be the last on this matter. You can come in.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks very much for the presentations. My question relates to, the overall costing, and I just wondered if either the Auditor General's office or some other institution is able to basically assess whether the amounts that are being spoken about here in terms of the reconstruction project, including the offices that were referred to in the presentation, whether those prices are competitive. Because obviously money has been set aside based on estimates and so on, but is there any sense from the Office of the Auditor General, or is there any other mechanism to actually check whether these prices are providing the state with value for money in terms of the actual product that we will receive at the end of the day? Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. The DPSA in its presentation, STP says that the total cost is estimated at 4.4 or 4.5 billion. And I want to check if as of now we have that money. How much has the Treasury allocated us against this estimated cost of 4.5 billion? And then the next thing that I want to say to the DPSA is that they must do about the robustness of their mitigation measures. We are intolerable to lousy excuses why the project has not been completed on time. That is the posture and the attitude we take as the Oversight Committee. If there is anything that we know now which is likely to impact on our work, we have to be preemptive. For instance, we cannot easily take excuses about the weather. We can't, unless if there are unexpected occurrences like cyclones, which none of us here can say we are going to have a cyclone at this time of the year. But by now, we know the Cape Town weather. Which part of the year do we expect rains in Cape Town? We can't wait to live for the day when somebody comes here and say to us, due to rain, we were not able to do this and that. We can't accept that kind of an excuse. It's a lousy excuse, especially for professionals. You know, and you can even make a forecast now and know that we are going to have rain between October and February 2026. So those are some of the excuses that you must know are not going to be accepted before this Committee of Parliament. If there is any work that must be done now, which can be potentially impacted by rain, you must do that work now. And the other point, which I do not know, Honorable Van Roy, and that you have raised, what is it that this committee must do? If, for instance, we say that the statute that is here in front of us makes a statement that the past continues to haunt the present, because that is what it means. It tells a story of colonial domination. It tells a story of social exclusion. It tells a story of racial superiority. I mean, racial supremacy. If we say the STP and the DPSA must go and look into this matter, are we saying that cognizant of the cost overruns that may be incurred if they, because where I stand, I don't know, I stand to be advised or corrected. whether we will want them to go and look at it first and come back and say it is going to have financial implication if we, so that if they go and do it and come back here and report that you spoke in the committee meeting and said we are being haunted by the past and this is what we have factored into the concept document or into the conceptualization of our work. And these are the financial implications. And then when they present it here, we say, but who said you must go and do it? So I think the best to deal with it is to say to them, let them go and look at it without any financial implication for now and come back to us and say, the thing that you want us to do or the thing that you want us to modify, if we were to do it, these are the financial implications. And then if the committee agrees to that, to say, no, you can incur those expenses, then we know that all of us have agreed, we understand. I always like us to take decisions with our eyes wide open and our minds envisioning what we want to achieve and knowing what is it that goes into what we are saying. In as much as you make a profound statement here, I think it will be very, very prudent for us to say to the STP and the DPSA, for now, there is no money that has been allocated. To conceptualize this, how much do you think it will cost us? Can we do this? It is something worth doing. And then the committee will give us an approval. I don't know, Honorable Van Rooyen, what is your view about it? Because you are the one who raised this matter.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think, Chair, if you look into the bioscope that was played to us, demonstrating how this parliament is going to be turned around, I'm definitely sure.
The indigenization.
I'm definitely sure that those experts will take into consideration the context within which that execution or the execution of the project is conducted. And they will definitely say this is the correct ambience. This is how this statue, I mean, like Madiba's statue is there in front, but now it's overshadowed by this, I don't even know his name, this apartheid statue. How does these things, because remember, if people visit parliament, they should tell a story from, I mean, entering the parliament.
I hear what you are saying.
So what I'm saying is that they are better placed because they are experts. Maybe in their opinion, this is enhancing indigenization. I don't know. And that's why I was saying, if it's possible, their opinion, their advice as to the bigger picture of this project will be very big. Because if we get that thing that says this effort will be undermined by this, then it's for this committee to advise accordingly the parliament. You know?
That is exactly what I'm saying. I wanted to hear if we were in the same frequency, to say, let them go back and say, yes, it is possible to factor this into the conceptualization of indigenization. But in the process, this is what will cost you. And then come back and present here to say, we have modified the plans, or it is possible for us to modify the plans. So whatever costs that are going to be incurred, we want you to note that as a committee that this will come at a cost. Even if it is not to modify but to demolish, it will also come at a cost. They must also say that, like for instance, as you said, to say, in the indigenization model, this is what is upsetting the model. And we think this has to be eliminated so that the model can stand intact. And if there is a way, for instance, somebody can say, no, this is not enough. We also need Jan Smart's closer. It will enhance it. And then this is what it will cost us. Or somebody can come and say, no, we also need Van Rooyen here. This is how it will enhance it. So I think it's something that you can go STB together with the DPSA, and you will come back and tell us. I don't think that part in any way will impact on the restoration project as it unfolds. Can we get your responses? In your responses, you must also not forget what Honorable Clark has raised about the insurance. Today is Friday. The date are arriving this afternoon. We must receive them in terms of our culture.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chairperson and members. On the aspect of insurance for immovable property, the state does not insure immovable property. And to a large extent, as we know, including movable property, there's no insurance. So it covers that by placing funds to rebuild whenever there is issues and or replace those assets. So Treasury issued a note, practice note number 5 of 2007, that clearly state instructions to all departments not to insure immovable property. So these buildings were not insured at the time of the fire. So their replacement is now done as per the appropriation from the National Fiscus to rebuild. I may not know the reasons around that, given the large, expansive scale of the portfolio of the state. So it might have been informed by those considerations, I don't know. The second aspect is on the request for the committee to visit the site. We will be guided by the committee chairperson. From our side, we will be ready once the committee identifies the date to visit the site. On the imperative to conclude the project as per stimulated timeframes, we share the same posture, chairperson, in regard to the implementation agent and the contractors appointed, that issues of weather cannot be used as an excuse for not completing the project. It must really be something else, as you say, the seismic shifts in the air or the sea visiting Parliament or whatever event that cannot be reasonable anticipated to happen. You would have noticed that one of the issues that are fairly consistent in any project rebuild or new project is what is called discovering issues on site as you continue. They did indicate that there is a stream under the old assembly and the new assembly, water stream. And it is known that stream has always been there. It may be the extent now to which the digging for installing the columns is impacted by that water. But I think engineers, like any other, they will have to find answers to that so that it does not materially impact on the progress per the set timelines. So we'll be watching that also to ensure that the project is indeed completed as planned. The issue of contractors, I think DBSA and AG will respond to that. The total project components as presented, Chairperson, are in different parts since the start of this project in March 2023. Part one was what we call early enabling work, and that talks to the requirements of heritage laws to identify assets that can be salvaged, restore, package them, identify pathways to access the building to remove those. That work was done in May, June, July, August. And that was part of the requirements for also to enable AG to look at the assets that needs to be written off and so on. That also included demolition as a program. The second part speaks to offices of members as a component of the project, and the report has been given around that. The third part is what we call facility management framework plan. That was another third work package. The fourth work package was what we call precinct plan, to develop a precinct, as you could see how people will access and how we make sure that these buildings talk to each other. We reimagine a different campus for the Parliament of South Africa. The fifth one is in two parts, is the refurbishment of the old assembly, as well as rebuilding of the new assembly. All those parts put together constitute a total that has been estimated at 4.4 billion as we speak. That will be the total of all the project. How much was allocated at the start? It was 2 billion rand, 118 million rand. That's what was the first appropriation in 2023 to allocate money to reflect the intention that the rebuilding needs to start. Of course, at the time, there was no costed designs for any of these projects. So the appropriation was not informed by work about what it will cost to rebuild. So the whole design work took place. It has now resulted into fully costed plans that enable DPSA then to appoint contractors in accordance with those work packages. Hence, you now have 2.7 billion for one project and 1.3 billion for the other. It's now informed by costed designs. Hence, it goes to 3.6 billion rand just for OA and the NA only. So far as the report states, 574 million plus has been spent to date, but we do think, Chairperson, that consistent with those project phases outlined for both projects, the expenditure would likely start to peak a pace in line with each of the drawdowns that Parliament pays to DPSA. And we do receive tranches annually of about 500 million and billion and so on. And this is part of the drawdown of what we currently have from the 2 billion. We are meeting with National Treasury on the 4th of August to detail the components of the additions from a costing that has now been completed for each project. And that detail has already been shared with them in writing at every stage that DPSA appointed a contract. So we've already communicated. We have now agreed for a set down date of the 4th of August to then unpack those components about the rebuilding cost requirements. So we are in a constant interaction with Treasury, and they are also alive that the 2 billion that are allocated was not the total funding for the project. It was the initial appropriation to start the project. The third component is around indigenization, as asked by honorable members. Indeed, from the concept design of this project, it is anchored around that, to bring together the melting pot of the rich tapestry of the culture of our people, from indigenous people to the heritage of a colonial nature, and also reflective of the apartheid reality of our unfolding history as a diverse nation. So the blueprint that is characterizing this project is about bridging those two tensions: retention of heritage issues, but also catapult Parliament into a new future. How do we fix issues that were central to that? So the thematic choices made around furniture themes, the color schemes that are used, reflective of Kalahari, reflective of all the heritage of our people, would be reflected in that. The choice of trees, the yellow wood, and all these other choices that informed Old Assembly are a reflecting of how do we then start capturing the reality of how our fauna and flora shapes the realities of our landscape as a country. So that reflection will be characterizing how our indigenization project is unfolding. Any other elements that would have to be thought through a full heritage scoping may not necessarily impact on the structural progress that has been reflected, but may well be accommodated as part of enriching the outlook of the project. And I think those will be very much welcome, honorable members, as we shape what would now become a permanent feature of a post-apartheid parliament reflective of the diversity of our history, including the path going forward. If I have missed any other component, my colleagues from Team Parliament can cover that, so that if there's any issue else, AG, if there's anything else to reflect on, as well as DBSA, please do so.
AG.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair and Co-Chairs. So maybe I'll start with the last question first for us. The question was specifically about the pricing, and is there any work from our side that we do specifically relating to the pricing? So I can indicate when we specifically look at the contracts, we evaluate it in terms of procurement and contract management, making sure it complies with the regulations from a competitive bidding side. So based on those guidance that's in the policy, we would audit against it, but we wouldn't specifically say, is this at the right price? Because there's various manners in which it's basically done, either via tender process, via quote system, or even a close bidding, which happened in these instances, and also in the case of deviation. So what we will make sure from the AGSA side, that they then comply to the applicable laws and regulations that is applicable. On the other part that the Honourable Member has raised relating to the issue of subcontracting, I must indicate just the findings was split into the areas of 90 Plain Street. So if we specifically go to that specific finding, there we specifically refer to the subcontracting, where we specifically indicated the deviation process wasn't followed appropriately and it wasn't documented appropriately by the BSA. Then the second part of the findings relating specifically to the National Assembly, Old Assembly, and the demolition packages, and there we basically had issues on delays of the contract specifically. But I think important to note, as the Honourable Member was asking, Chair, that we did any investigation against the contractor. There wasn't specific investigation done against the contractor, but more making sure was the proper process have occurred when the appointment happened. But I'm also just going to ask Al now to just add on a bit more, just a bit more detail for the honourable members. Thanks, Al now.
Chair, through you. So yes, as indicated, the appointment of nominated subcontractors related to the 90 Plain Street project, where Power Construction was the contractor. And in the bill of quantities for this project, there were some provisional sums for specific work relating to electrical, electronic and mechanical work. And you'll remember that I've mentioned earlier that this is problematic because of the exploratory approach that had to be followed on this project because of the lack of as-built drawings and the lack of maintenance on these systems over a number of years. So just to explain the difference between nominated subcontractors and domestic subcontractors. So with a nominated subcontractor, the contractor is instructed which subcontractors to use. So he doesn't have a decision in that regard. The employer or the implementing agent, DBSA, would have informed them which subcontractor to use. Whereas a domestic subcontractor, there the contractor himself decides who to appoint as his subcontractors. So in this specific case, the instruction was done to appoint specific nominated subcontractors. And the reason for this is that previously these subcontractors were used by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to maintain these systems on this 90 Plain Street building. So they had experience and knowledge of these systems where, you know, they had this lack of as-built drawing and information on the systems.
AG, the appointment of the contractors is not in dispute. It is not a matter that you have to respond to. And there is no finding against that appointment. Or did you make any finding against that appointment?
The issue related to the nominated subcontractors being utilized.
Yeah, but we don't have any subcontractor or contractor in dispute now. There is no dispute around that. If there is any dispute, your office will accordingly be invited to investigate if the process of appointments have been properly made.
Chair, I just I find it very helpful, the explanation on what's the difference between nominated subcontractors and domestic subcontractors. So I appreciate the input we're getting from the Auditor-General, and I'd like him to
They're just saying it out of generosity. We appreciate your generosity, but there is no issue, there is no dispute, and you yourself have not made any finding. We are glad to hear that they are one of the experienced service providers. But that would be a point that, for instance, would love to hear in case there was any concern. Yeah. Was that the last point that you wanted to say, Ms.
Yes,
Adam?
Chair. 100%, Chair. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but then they're not answering my question. My question wasn't about 90 Plain Street. My question was about the demolition subcontract with Mazia Construction Services and whether they've investigated that appointment and whether everything, because they mentioned that in their management report, and that's why I'm bringing it up here. Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Adams, can you respond to the question?
Perfect, Chair. Chair, through you, what we've indicated in the report that was supplied, we indicated there was nothing specifically we found based on the work that we've done. There were some time delays as per the report that we've reported on, but we've also indicated when we presented it this morning to the members that this matter has been then finalized. So from our perspective, then that part was then closed. There was no specific findings that we raised. It was just a time delay issue that was a concern.
Honorable Badenhorst.
Sorry, Chair, but that's not what is stated in the management report. The management report says there is a finding. I can read it again, but I did read it in my original question.
You can read what is, they will clarify it is their report.
Yeah, so after the contractor was appointed, DBSA issued contract instructions to instruct the contractor to appoint nominated subcontractors. No evidence was provided that an open and competitive process was followed in the appointment of the nominated subcontractors. The tender documentation indicated that it was a closed tender, and no evidence was provided that the tender documentation was provided to any other tenderer other than the appointed nominated subcontractors. Furthermore, a motivation to deviate from inviting competitive bids for the appointment of nominated subcontractors were also not provided as required by the Treasury Regulation 16A 6.4. This is an extract from
the management
report of the Attorney General,
And
of the Auditor General. Thank
the
you.
final report of the AG, what does it say?
Sorry, I wasn't aware. I'm in school here. I haven't got that report right in front of me now. I'm just wondering if
Because
that issue was addressed. That
My
they mentioned
understanding
in
is
their-
that the management letter is sent so that the management can respond to those issues, and when they have responded to, the AG will then issue a final. Is that not so, Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Just through you, maybe just to indicate, the Honorable Member is right about the finding, but it's specifically related to refurbishing and upgrade of the office of 90 Plain Street. So if you go to page 34, that will be the heading. Then we will actually indicate it in detail who was the contractor and who was the subcontractor that was impacted. So it had nothing to do with the other supplier that you were referring to, that specific matter. It's two separate issues, but we can provide more clarity in writing, Chair, if needed. But as indicated, based on this specific one, as I've said, when I was responding to say, yes, in terms of this specific one of 90 Plain Street, we did indicate that the deviation wasn't appropriately documented, but it had nothing to do with the supplier that the member was referring to. And it didn't impact the audit report also.
It's not on page 37 at the bottom. It's not on page 37 of your management report. Sorry, Chair, through you.
Ms. Adams?
100% Chair, through you, I've got here on page 7, my 37 is a bit different than that. So maybe we can just close it off with the member in terms of the version control, because in my page 37, I've got some recommendations that's included.
To make it easier, I'll follow up with a written question through you, Chair, through the Secretariat. No problem.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have come to the end of our engagements. Tau ya tswako.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chair and Co-Chairs and Honorable Members. If we could be indulged, I think Elno was precisely answering this question very well, and he was requested to stop in the process. It is precisely the question that Honorable Baden was asking.
He was providing the answer
He
to that.
provided the answer as it is, and just to mention, Chair, that we even provided the same response the last time that we met in this particular house. We dealt with this particular issue, and now it is surfacing again, and Elno covered it quite eloquently, and I'm not sure if Honorable Chair can allow him to finish his response in this respect.
Well, it's me who understood him, who misunderstood him.
Precisely, Chair.
I'm sorry, Mr. Elno. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I think I was at the point of difference between the nominated and the domestic subcontractors. I've explained that. And the reason was that these nominated subcontractors had experience at the 90 Plain Street building on those systems that were concerning and not maintained. So the decision to make use of them made sense. And as I said, it was also, they were appointed through a tender process by the Department of Public Works. But it was then a closed process followed when they appointed them by DBSA appointed them. So it's the process that they followed. They didn't properly motivate and document the reasons, although it does make sense why they've done it. The price is also aligned to the provisional sums that they've used. So we didn't identify any significant variances between what they've tendered in the closed tender versus what was projected in the bill of quantities. So our issue is with the process that's being followed, but not with the fact that they've made that decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. I see the honorable member is nodding his head. The answer must be sufficient. Okay. Thank you so much, AGSA, for the precision of your answers. And let me also thank do you want to say something, STB?
Not at all. I thought if there was anything else that DPSA wanted to say online,
oh yeah,
on any clarity, then maybe they might have picked something, I don't know, for completeness, yes.
Yeah, for completeness sake, DPSA, is there anything you may want to say?
Thank you so much. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair. We also thought there were some questions that really wanted us to also clarify, and but I think it's not going to be too long because I think part of issues that Honorable Badenhorst has raised, it's also maybe just to clarify so that you leave this meeting clarified that the issue of Mazia was not a subcontractor, was not appointed as a subcontractor. Mazia was a main contractor for the demolitions. Just to clarify that, because I think Honorable Badenhorst kept on saying that Mazia was a subcontractor, but I think we must be clear to say that that was Mazia was appointed as a main contractor, so that's the case. But also just the issue of the subcontractors. In a number of cases, Chair, you would appreciate that we have transformation laws in the country. We also then, taking that into consideration to make sure that as the main contractor is responsible, we also have to deal with the way that the subcontractors are particularly appointed thereof to make sure that there is we comply also in terms of the allocation of work to that effect. But I think from that matter, I just wanted to clarify that particular part. I think the other issues has been clarified. And Chair, you raised the issue sharply on the issue of the weather, and I think maybe it's how we put it. But we think it's not necessarily referring to rain. I think maybe we should put it clear to say we're talking of issues of climate change, and I think STP has touched on it to say if there could be something very much. We have basically insisted on factoring of all those sort of issues in the planning of the project itself as part of the risk management. So that I think you're part. And one of the key things, as I said from the presentation, was that is the issue around the National Heritage Resource Act 25 1999 that the Parliament passed. That's why, issues that you are raising now that I think will open down the line in terms of the statues and all of that, it will be things that really will have to be dealt with in that particular aspect. But I think you provided guidance on how that particular matter should really be dealt with. And I think the key fundamental issue that is raised by Honorable Van Rooyen and yourself, Chair, is the issue of the robustness of the mitigation measures, which I think it's a very valid point, and is what is actually driving the collective, both Parliament, ourselves, and all those involved to make sure that we really become much more proactive, preemptive. Hence, we appreciate the AG's involvement at the onset, and that's basically speaking to also what Honourable Van Rooyen has raised, which I think is a good point to then say to us what are the mitigation plans, and we must always keep our eyes focused on that. Issues of scope change management, we've put those things in place. We have also the steering committee that we talked about. We have all of these checks and balances in place. Of course, what is important in this whole aspect is our appreciation that decisions has to really be quick, and we are very incorporating of even the guidelines that has been spoken about in that regard. So is those things that we really would just want to confirm that are being dealt with. Honorable Clark has asked a question as to does the 10% risk, and does that align with the PM? Of course, Honorable Clark, we also appreciate we incorporated all of that, and then in regular meetings on a weekly, monthly basis, those discussions are taking place to that effect. And on the subcontractors, as you ask, Honorable Clark, how many subcontractors do we have at this point? As we are starting right in the beginning, in relation to all the Assembly and National Assembly, I can confirm there's going to be subcontractors, but at this point in time, there's still it's still at an early stage. They'll pick up because we're still going to really go up with the project where we still have the fittings and all of that. So we'll keep on reporting about those particular kind of elements in terms of what then constitute that. So, Chair, I think just to on a last note, just Honourable Ndlovu, we really appreciate your observation in terms of just appreciating it. Also, gave us encouragement to also hear members also then beginning to deal with just looking at things from a point of appreciation that the designs and that. So I think that also gives us the strength to say, look, we also, and that's what we're really asking for, to just get the courage from the committee, but also really, as we said, the committee, as STP has indicated, we're ever ready for the committee to visit the site, because it's easier when you see and the explanation taking place from there. Honourable Chair, thank you so much from our side. We really appreciate this engagement always, and that's how we really would become a better agent of government as an organ of state to then deliver infrastructure for government. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As you leave this meeting, I just want you, every time when you do your work on the restoration of Parliament, you must know that the Constitution of the Republic says that the major preoccupation of Parliament is lawmaking and oversight and public participation. So we want you to help us to do our work. We are not here to supervise the restoration of Parliament. We are here to pass laws that must transform the Republic and benefit the people of this country. We are here to make sure that the people of this country are involved in the development of their own country. So if we are going to spend the time of the committee, STP, on this infrastructure project, we are going to fail in our mission as Parliament to provide services. Rampel, we want a situation where when we sit in our committee meetings, we discuss how portfolio committees of Parliament are playing their oversight on the executive for the benefit of South Africans. We are not here to spend 5 years discussing the restoration of Parliament, and please, together with your team, help us to complete this project within the timeframes that you yourselves have stipulated. It's not our work. The work of teachers is not to build classrooms, is to teach South African children and make them global citizens. Even ourselves here, we are not engineers. We are not experts in buildings and infrastructure. We are politicians who have been sent here to come and transform this country and better the lives of our people. We invite you to be part of that journey and help us to focus on our work. Since we arrived here, every day we've been discussing the restoration. We are tired with this debate. We want to focus on our work, and please, this is the humble plea I can make to you and the DPSA to help this Committee of Parliament to focus on the work that the people of the Republic want to see it doing. Thank you so much. And we also want to, like Honorable Ndlovu has said, appreciate the impressive presentation you have made with your expertise and your conceptualization. Also help us to deal with the past that continue to haunt the present. Thank you so much. STP, we want to thank you so much yourself and your team. And let me thank the honorable members who are here and those on the virtual platform. Honorable Ndlovu, your closing remarks.
Thanks very much, Co-Chair. And also let me join you in thanking all the presenters, the Auditor General, the DBSA, STP, and management present here, and the members from the National Assembly, and also the NCOP. Thanks very much.
The meeting stands adjourned.
Chair.